The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bit by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien helped me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hey there, and welcome to the Graphic Histories Podcast. My name is Andre Mayette, your podcast host. Big thanks to Uga the Mock for our theme song, Superpowers. And big thanks to you, gentle listener, for tuning in once again to another show. Another little break, summer. But also, getting a few cancellations here and there. So I'm trying to keep to the Monday schedule. It may happen there's a break here and there. But I will always, unless you hear that I'm closing, which I don't intend to do, there will always be no episode coming on a Monday in the future, for sure. So this is the new one. In fact, I have quite a few already done up. So the next several Mondays are covered. Lucky you. Today I'm talking with J.M. DeSantis, a very cool comic book creator who is making some excellent work, very interesting and unique visual art style, who's delving into the world of horror, something, of course, I'm very close to, and we do get into a pretty nerdy debate about horror, and I wouldn't call it debate, we pretty much disagree on everything, but it was a fun chat about horror and about the books he works on, his inspirations, and his journey. So it's a really cool talk. Really cool chat. As it is summer, I am doing a little bit of vacation-y stuff, getting out here and there. I'm going away again this weekend to visit some friends. Very excited about that, so I'm not going to give you a super prolonged intro. All I'm going to tell you is that it's been a really good summer for movies. And it's been a pretty great year for television as well. The new King of the Hill season is out on Disney. I must say, as much as it's kind of annoying that they are doing these nostalgia deep dive series, bring them back. This is one that I'm very happy has come back. So it's a great continuation of the original and really fun. If you like the original King of the Hill, you're slipping right back into an old familiar shoe because it's pretty much exactly the same. Obviously modernized for the culture we live in today, but it's still a very cool show and very fun, heartfelt, lovely show. Exactly how I remembered it. I'm really glad it's back. Speaking of things that I loved from my childhood that are back, the new Naked Gun movie. I did happen to go see that with some friends on Tuesday, and I have to say, it is hilarious. It is a true tribute and continuation of the original. If you love the silly ridiculousness of the originals, you will love these ones. It has the same spirit in all its goofiness, and I loved it. There's a sequence involving a chili dog. It's like 5 minutes of the movie. If you see it, you'll see Busta Rhymes. When he shows up, it's around then. It had me laughing so hard that my face hurt and I couldn't catch my breath in the theater. I haven't laughed that hard in a film in a long time. So kudos to Seth MacFarlane and the director whose name escapes me. But they did amazing work. Liam Neeson, Pam Anderson, excellent, and so much fun. It's a super fun movie. But on top of that, I saw the movie Together, which is also a really, really great horror film. One that I deeply loved. And if you've ever been in a relationship that probably wasn't the healthiest, or maybe was the healthiest, depending on how you look at it, codependent type relationship, this movie is for you. It'll speak to you on a lot of levels. I'm also very excited for Weapons, which is coming out soon, which I'm very, very excited for. So, we got Superman, we got Fantastic Four, we got Together, we got Weapons, which looks amazing. It's getting huge reviews. It's just a great year for cinema, a great year for television. So get out there if that's your world, if you want to do that. Also, of course, read some comics, read some books this summer. Sit under a tree and do that. That's the best way to do it, under a tree. But if you're watching television, TV, if you're doing it while you work, as I often do, check some of this stuff out. It's great. Movies I kind of hold in a higher regard, so I will usually sit and we'll watch one of those straight on. Television I will do while I'm working. Get out there and check it out. There's some really cool stuff. Speaking of cool stuff, here is my interview with J.M. DeSantis.
Hey, Andre.
Hey, James, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How's everything?
Good, good. You prefer Jeff or JM?
Either one works.
All right.
Professionally, I go by JM though.
Yeah, cool. All right. Awesome. How are things in your neck of the woods?
Pretty good. We're hitting a little bit of a heat wave again. I think
Yeah.
it's like 100 degrees over here. So
Yeah, I'm in Nova Scotia, so I'm just above you a little bit. But
yeah.
usually we kind of share weather, so it seems it's also quite warm here as well. So
Um, were you guys dealing with somebody I was talking to out in Canada said that there had been some wildfires. Are you guys still dealing with the?
most of those are in the other part of Canada, like up in Alberta, British Columbia, so closer to the other side.
Yeah.
We did have some here. Was it last year? A pretty rough one near Halifax, which did kind of was kind of a wake up call for a lot of folks around here because we never really had them before. Um,
Okay.
but it was mostly because of Fiona. There were a lot of dead trees in the woods that were knocked down from Hurricane Fiona, and because of that, like there's just a lot of dead, dry stuff that once it goes up, it goes up, and it was just one of those summers. So far, nothing too bad out this way, but there were some bad ones in British Columbia this year. I know I have a friend that's a firefighter that got flown out to kind of give their services out there.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I guess you're in New Jersey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that we don't get. I mean, there's nothing coming down by us from
No,
like even the littlest bit of it. But yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just been a hot summer this year.
no,
That's
yeah.
that's the only thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I recently I don't think you guys have I don't know if you guys use them or not in the States, but heat pumps. They're like it's kind of like it's an air conditioner but also heater depending on the time of the year. They're sort of they're electric but they sort of change the air. It's kind of like an air conditioner basically, but
Yeah.
they use electricity and a lot less than the standard air conditioner, so they're kind of a big thing out here. So I recently got them in
Oh,
my house, so it actually at least to go in your house you get a little bit of relief now. So
it's called a heat pump.
yeah, yeah, but they air condition in the winter or in the
Yeah. Yeah.
summer.
No. No. No.
Yep, yeah,
I'm
they're pretty
wondering
neat.
if I can. I wondering if I can get one.
Oh, maybe.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the kind of thing that Canada would have, and then the U.S. would just like not even bother with.
Well, like it depends on what part of Canada you're in. Like there are other parts where they have like natural gas for power, which is like a way easier way. So
Right.
it's not quite as big a deal to have them. A big trend up here, and I'm sure it probably is your neck of the woods, is solar power as well. Like we
Yeah.
recently have when I got the heat pumps, I got panels put on my house as well. So at least that
Yeah.
way, it's like I'm not really paying for it anymore. I mean, I am because you got to pay the loan for the pumps, but the government offered a no interest loan for the cost of them.
Oh.
So in like 10 years, you
Oh,
just pay it
that's
off.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
hopefully you have a few decades of not having any power bills until.
Right. That's kind of the thing here. It's still like I live in an apartment, so
Hmm.
I can't do it anyway. But like that's the thing here. It's like it will take you about a decade to pay it off.
Hmm.
But once you get on the other side of that, then it's very much worth the investment.
Yeah. I've always been of the sort that like the longer I can kick the can down the road, the better. Like when we need to
Yeah.
redo our roof, I was like, let's get a metal roof because it's like 40 years. I don't have to it has a warranty. So I'm just turning 40 this year. So in theory, when I'm turning, I guess I got it a few years ago. So when I'm like 75, I may have other issues, not worrying about the metal in the roof if it doesn't work out. So, you know,
Sure.
it's kind of like that. I'm like, if I can kick it down the road for a while, I don't have to worry about it, then I'm laughing.
Sense.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you New Jersey born and bred? Is that where you're from originally?
Yeah. I haven't moved out of the state yet. I keep thinking I want to go to Massachusetts, but I
Really?
haven't. Yeah.
What's the
Well, all my family's in New Jersey, but
hmm
so it's kind of hard to do because I am close with my family.
hmm
I just, I've always, since I've visited Massachusetts, it's my favorite state in the US.
hmm
I just, I like Boston's my favorite city. Some of the more rural areas of Massachusetts are kind of nice.
hmm
And since I'm a writer, it's the most educated area of the U.S. So like,
Well, that
there's
makes
more
sense.
people reading there. Yeah.
Harvard and all that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask. I know Cthulhu is kind of like in Lovecraft work is sort of part of a lot of the things you work on. Is it a connection to that as well? Because that's very much a Massachusetts thing, isn't it?
It's kind of funny though. I think like maybe that's the first way that Massachusetts was really on my radar in any way.
Hmm.
And then I had a friend that went to college up there and he was always asking me to go up. I was like, no, no, no. I always passed up the opportunity until he moved back to New Jersey. And then I was like, oh, well, why didn't I ever go up there? And, yeah, I guess it kind of got me curious about it, but it wasn't until I visited that I really fell in love with it up there.
Mm.
So,
From what I hear, it's beautiful. I'd like to make it down there someday too. A friend of mine works in the fishing industry. Like he
mhm,
works for they're like a advocacy group for like seafood from Nova Scotia. So
right.
there's some kind of like event that he went to that was in Boston right around St. Patrick's Day, and I was like, man, take me with you. Like, how great would it be to be in Boston on St. Patrick's Day? I'm like, he was like, well, I'll leave the day before. I'm like, stay an extra day, like
Yeah,
go
yeah,
to St. Patrick's Day. Like, when are you going to get that chance? So
fair. Yeah, I've
someday.
never even done it up there. Yeah, but well, that's another thing about Massachusetts. I mean, given there's a lot of food choices here because I'm so close to New York City, so
Mm,
like you can get everything. But Massachusetts has like the best seafood I've had
mm.
so far.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, there's things I won't order in New Jersey now because I'm like, it's just not going to be the same. So, you know,
It's been ruined, tainted. You can't eat
yeah,
the plebeian seafood of New York.
yeah,
That's funny.
a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I guess like growing up, were you always into comics? Was comics something that was always a part of your childhood?
So it's funny, like I always I go in odd directions with this. Yes. I mean,
Hmm.
essentially yes. But I kind of like fell out of love with them for a while too when I got into my teens. But
Hmm.
yeah, growing up, I mean, I was really into I mean, like most of the kids my age when I started in the 90s, like X-Men was the big thing. My brother was like big into Spider-Man. We did have some comics that we collected collectively. So like Batman. We had the original like 4 issue run of Cloak and Dagger too. There
Oh
were like
wow.
just some odd ones in there too. But then, yeah, I remember the first like character I really like fell in love with was Ghost Rider because I was always a big like horror fan and stuff like that too growing up on like the Universal films and such. Even video games, I was into like Castlevania and that sort of thing. So Ghost Rider just kind of like fit me a little bit more. And then yeah, like I was big into Ghost Rider during the Danny Ketch years when Howard Mackey and both Mark Teixeira and Salvador Larroca were like doing the artwork with them.
That's a
Um,
beautiful run. Excellent stuff.
yeah, yeah, it
I've
was.
actually
I
just
mean,
started rereading the Midnight Sun story. It was like because
oh, yeah,
I just kind of like I remember loving that as a kid. I mean, going back to it, it's like it's still fun.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely.
because I was a huge fan of Darkhold when I was a kid. I got a hold of that
Yep,
comic, and
yeah,
I don't know why, but I was pretty obsessed with it. And I don't know if it's because like you find something that no one else really follows and it seems unique to you, but also the
yeah,
area I grew up was very like you would not run into another comic fan my own age for a while. So
right, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I mean that was kind of the nice thing, kind of what you're talking about. Like I felt like Ghost Rider was like uniquely my thing
hmm.
because like all of my friends were into something completely different, either more mainstream or just, they just kind of collectively were into something else. But then there was some crossover. I mean, you had like characters like Morbius, so my brother and I were like both familiar with him because he kind of like was in a little bit of both comics,
Yeah.
because again, he was a Spider-Man fan.
Well, when the
But
90s
then,
horror boom started, they sort of definitely he sort of transferred over from just Spider-Man to that world. Well,
right.
what was that initial love of horror? Where did that come from? Was it just did you just discover it as a child? Do you have something to introduce you to it or
I don't exactly know. I just know that my brother and I used to watch, specifically out of the Universal films, Creature from the Black Lagoon,
mm,
The Invisible Man, and Frankenstein a lot.
nice.
My I don't, when I was really young, my mom thought Dracula would be too intense, even though I was like really into vampires and Dracula. When I got a little bit older, then it was fine, you know. But I don't know what initially started it. I loved Halloween. I'm like born 2 days after it. Um, it just was always stuff. My parents said I was like obsessed with like skeletons and vampires. Like that was like those were
That's
like the
awesome.
big things. Yeah.
That's cool. Well,
So
it's funny how
it
like
was always there.
Dracula is considered too much because it's like probably one of the tamest vampire movies you
Right.
could probably
Right.
get if you go back and look through the oeuvre of vampire cinema.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
it's funny that I stayed obsessed with Dracula for a long time, but I always tell people this because I do a lot of like of the original Nosferatu. I do a lot of fan art of that because
Hmm.
I try to keep it to public domain stuff if I do stuff.
Hmm.
And yeah, Count Orlok, like that original, I just would see clips of it when I was a kid. That was the only thing that creeped me out. But then I just became obsessed with the original film, you know. And yeah, but I don't know. So
Oh,
yeah,
it's a good film to be obsessed with. It's funny. Like as a horror, I'm a big horror fan too, and as a you have these sort of spots, and you're like, someday the perfect opportunity will come for me to watch this movie. And one of them
yeah,
was Nosferatu. I put it off. I put it off. I was like, someday I'll have this great opportunity. And then when the new movie came out, a friend of mine actually runs a theater, like that does plays and stuff, but they have a movie screen that can show movies. They don't do it very often. So he got a group together just to have a private show and watch Nosferatu in the big screen,
oh,
and it
that's
was
perfect.
really cool. And I watched like the night before I watched the new one, so it was really cool to have the two of them, tied to each other that way.
Right.
And I love them both for different reasons. I mean, I really love the new one, but the old one has such an interesting. Um, I don't know. It's like German stuff, I guess. It feels like they're not afraid to push the boundaries, and kind of go
No,
into
they're
weird places, even way before there were boundaries, I guess. Like it just seemed like
right.
it was just a wide open. You could do whatever you wanted in film, and it didn't really matter. And certainly go for broke when it comes to disturbing, which
No,
they.
100%. And it's funny. You mentioned that with the uniqueness of the film. I always felt the same way. And before they made that movie, Shadow of the Vampire, I always
Mm.
felt like the way Max Shreck's performance was as Orlok. I was like, it's like they just found a vampire somewhere and just filmed this thing doing what he does,
Yeah.
because it just had that. There was something about the film quality with his very stiff and corpse-like performance that I was like, no, that's kind of what a vampire would, it just
Yeah.
felt real. Yeah,
I like the idea that it's something like, I mean, obviously there's so much vampire stuff that you could kind of do everything, under the sun.
yeah,
But I really do like when there's something otherworldly about them, I guess. Like I was talking to
mhm,
someone about the new, and I know it's not a vampire thing, but just in reference to like this, um, the new It movie. Like when I watched it, I was told a friend, I said like the original one, Tim Curry seems like a clown that turns into a monster, and then the new one, like with obviously the guy from Nosferatu as well, Bill Skarsgård, that it seems like it's something trying to look like a clown, but not quite
right,
catching it, which is
right,
which is more disturbing to me. Like it's like when it's like something that's quite just it's like that uncanny valley, just a little off. So I love the
yeah.
vampire part with the big hand. Like whenever I draw vampires, just for any work I do, I always try to give them the big Nosferatu hands because I think that's
It's
a fun
it's
little.
funny. It's funny you mention that. I do that with like all creature artwork, which
Mhm.
is whatever it is. If they're going to have claws, their hands are usually oversized when I draw them and
Nice.
very long, like talon-like
Yeah,
fingernails.
I'm sure
I
there's
do the
some
same thing.
deep psychological thing that can explain why you're drawn to whatever aspect of horror you are.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, vampire is obviously a rich well, and there's a lot of interesting stuff. I've always been a huge Frankenstein fan too.
Yeah.
In
Well,
fact, this past
when
Halloween, I just watched the Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein for the first time, and I was very happy with
oh,
that movie.
yes.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
get everybody.
it's funny now when I read both books, it wasn't until I was in college, and just on my own,
Hmm.
but I was like, even though I'm such a big Dracula and vampire fan, I liked Frankenstein better, the
Mm.
novel. Like Frankenstein's a novel that I feel like anybody should read. Like,
Yeah,
it's
agreed.
not even for the horror aspect.
I
It's just
wouldn't
there's a
call it
lot of relatability.
particularly scary. You know,
No,
it's more like a
it
sci-fi novel than anything. But
right,
yeah,
right, and it's got a lot of thought-provoking stuff in it. Like
yeah,
I just feel like it's applicable
yeah.
at any time. And
Well, so many years ago, I went and saw when they were doing the National Theatre in London was doing this version of it that Danny Boyle was directing that had Benedict Cumberbatch and Johnny Lee Miller in it, and they would swap roles every night. So one night one would be the doctor, one would be the creature.
sure,
And I watched one of these live performances at the theater, and I was really taken with it because it was almost a literal adaptation of the book. So
oh,
I was like, I never really at that point. This is when I was in my early 20s. I never really read the original novel. I'm just familiar with it in the way everyone is through, the original movie.
right,
And so then I was really taken with it. And then in fact, a couple of years ago, I actually directed that play for a local theater group I'm in here, and I played the creature in it, and I co-directed with someone else. And
oh,
it
nice,
was such a
cool,
reward. It's probably one of the favorite things I've ever been involved in because it's so deep and like there's so many deep connections to like finding your purpose in life, about if you have any issues with your parents for any reason, stuff like
right,
that. Feeling like an outsider trying to fit in even though you don't. And all
right,
these, and even the doctor's side with like, trying to find answers, trying to like almost, you're so scared of what life gives you that you need to try to
right,
control it by creating it. The unpredictability
yeah,
of it, like and maybe there's things that are like kind of hinted in the book that I think they peel back a little bit in the play version, like his mother's death, and it seems like that sort of propelled him to try to find a way to create life, um,
sure.
and stuff like that. But I'm super excited for the new one. The Del Toro one
Oh
looks like
yeah.
it's going to be killer.
Yeah, well, it's funny you asked me about Lovecraft and going back to that. I still wish they'd let him make At the
Oh,
Mountains of
me too.
Madness.
Me
It's like,
too.
and I hear James Wan might be doing like the Dunwich Horror or something. And it's like, well, if you're going to fund his movie, why don't you give Guillermo del
I mean, how
Toro's?
many fucking Oscars does the guy need to win before you're like, just let him do what he wants to do? Like,
Right. Yeah.
Pinocchio won the which was an excellent movie.
Yeah.
Shape of Water. Like, just let him. I really loved uh, Nightmare Alley, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
He's never done anything I haven't even liked. I even find value in the things that like Mimic that weren't really 100% his because the studio took it away from him. But
Right.
I still like everything he's done is great. So just let him do it, man. I saw an art display somewhere where at a museum where they showed like his bleak house that he has with all the stuff in it. They took that out and put it on display in different museums, and the Toronto one had it when I was there, and I went, and they had some of the models of the penguins and stuff that would have been used in that movie. And I was like, man, make this movie. Let him make the movie.
And I don't know.
Well, do yourself a
Hopefully.
favor if you ever get a chance. Listen, there's a podcast called The Best Movies Never Made, where they read scripts for movies that never got made and kind of talk about it. Usually they read excerpts and they walk you through it. And they do Del Toro's Mountains of Madness, so you can kind of see what would have been. And it's a shame. I mean, it could still happen. Maybe someday it will. I really hope so. I mean, if
I mean, at
Frankenstein.
least, yeah, at least we probably could still get that in a
Mhm.
long enough timeline. We'll never get a Nicolas Cage Superman movie, but directed by Tim Burton. But
Yeah. I don't
we'll
know if
get
that
it.
would have been good.
I,
Like I,
I don't know that it would have either. But me and
no.
a friend were talking about this very, very recently, which
Mm,
is now because a lot of studios are so specific about what they want to fund, and they just want to try to make blockbusters all the time. You don't get any like campy schlock movies,
no.
like legitimately ones that just became a train wreck for whatever reason,
Mhm.
and then 5 or 10 years down the line get this cult following because they just, it
Yeah,
was just this weird movie at this weird time.
that's
You
true.
know?
It's almost like instead of that, you get a really sanitized, not like kind of basic. Like I almost find it more offensive in modern cinema if something's basic. Like if it's just
Right,
totally basic, middle line, doesn't take any risks, it's kind of boring, doesn't do anything exciting or do anything different. And it's like that's almost more because like at least if you're gonna go for broke and
right.
make a crazy insane movie that just
Well,
falls apart. But usually they're out there. They're usually just like low budget movies, but they're
where where it came up, we were talking, there was casting coming out for the new Street Fighter movie,
oh yeah,
and
I saw that.
we were like, man, we're not going to get like another like Jean-Claude Van Damme on cocaine with like Raul Julia just hamming it up. Like it's not going to be that, you know.
Like
It's like
holding up production so we can go to France to have lunch and have
yeah,
sex with Kylie Minogue. Like it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah. It's
yeah.
just we won't. Those movies just aren't made anymore, where they just like throw money at a property, and it's like, yeah, go off and come back when it's done.
Yeah, even like the low budget, like I mean, sort of the traumas and the ones that are still out there kind of doing their things, but even like the A24s are kind of getting so big now they don't even do shit like that anymore.
No, no,
Yeah.
and and there's don't get me wrong, like we were talking about Nosferatu and the remake, like
Hmm.
it's not that uh unique films aren't still made because Robert Eggers
Yeah.
still is
Oh yeah.
able to pretty much do whatever he wants,
Mhm.
but it's only like if at a certain quality, and I love those films, but
Mhm.
I would love to have those campy, like just what was anyone thinking when
Yeah.
this happened
Like I feel like they're still out there somewhat. Like every once in a while, I'll like peruse like Blu-rays and stuff. I'll peruse the rack at like Walmart, and then there'll be like
yeah,
some movie that's just called Werewolves that came out like a year ago that I've never heard of. That's like,
right.
yeah, I feel like who was in it? I feel like Frank Grillo or someone like that's in it. I'm like,
Oh,
I'd never even
okay.
heard of this. I'm like, where did this
Yeah,
come from? Like, but someone's out there making it, I guess.
yeah. No, that's probably true. That is. It's yeah. Just got to
Well,
start searching Tubi more.
oh God, yeah, that's a wellspring, man. So like I
But it
used to.
is. I'm finding so much stuff that I've never seen,
Mm.
just all over the place,
I used to, well, I listened to like Tarantino's podcast, the one that he has video
Mhm.
archives, and like they'll
Yeah,
talk about three old movies, and almost all of them are on Tubi. Like if I'm like,
right,
oh, that one sounds cool, I should go watch that tonight. And it's on Tubi.
right.
Wild.
I'm also a big fan of Red Letter Media.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So every once in a while, a movie comes up on their thing, and I'm just like, I have to go watch this. I have to see what this is like. And Tubi, 9 times out of 10,
Yeah,
they've got it. Yeah,
yeah. It's weird. It's like some obscure VHS tape they're talking about, and they're like, it's like the
right,
Secret Life of Sherlock Holmes or something. I'm like, all right, well, this seems
right.
interesting. I kind of want to watch this, and then you look and it's there.
Yeah,
Which is wild.
it's kind of
Tweet,
fun.
yeah, it's funny because like two of my favorite things to find movies on are Tubi and the Criterion Channel, which are like two very opposite worlds, but
Right. Yeah,
they're
yeah,
so good. It's just to watch something that's like culturally or historically or somehow critically so good, and then this other thing that's
right,
like probably also still great, but like way in a whole other world. So.
right.
Um,
Yeah, totally
well,
different ways. Yeah,
So I guess going back to you,
right.
working your way through, like, was the career path set as a kid? You wanted to get into creating your own comics, books, that sort of thing?
So, so yeah, we stopped off at Ghost Rider, and I didn't
Right.
get into right. So, yeah, there were like two ideas, and then it kind of developed into a third. Because what happened was, again, I was a kid in the '90s, so when Spawn hit,
Wow.
I was into it from issue one.
Mhm.
I think when I started on Ghost Rider, it was maybe 20 issues into the run, so I had to go
Mhm.
back and get them. But Spawn I bought like day one, issue one.
Nice.
And then there was also when Cliffhanger started, because I started getting a little bit jaded with Marvel. I had Spawn, and then you had whatchamacallit, Crimson, which was by uh, Humberto Ramos,
Mm.
and then Battle Chasers, which was by
Joe
Joe
Madureira.
Madureira.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think like seeing, and they were still, I want to say, 3 to 5 years apart from Spawn to Cliffhanger, but I got to see like creators actually creating their own properties and
Mm.
not doing it through a bigger studio. Although Marvel then isn't what Marvel is now, it was still like freelance work versus like having your own idea and
Mm.
your own vision. So I kind of got more into that sort of thing. It's just at some point I started not loving comics anymore. Um, and I started getting more into doing video gaming and writing novels. So, and it kind of like swung back at some point when I was in college. I had one professor that had worked for Marvel and was big into more independent books. So he kind of like changed my perspective a little bit, and I got to reading other indies. That's when I kind of like slowly started discovering Hellboy and Mike Mignola, but Alan Moore, just other creators that were doing their own thing. And it's like a weird kind of side like association, but there was a video game, I don't know if you know it, called Vagrant Story.
No.
Yeah, it's got a cult following. It was by the creator that did Final Fantasy Tactics and had a hand in Final Fantasy 12.
Okay.
A lot of the visuals, like they didn't have voice actors, so there was a lot of the dialogue was done with these like voice bubbles. And I don't know, it just kind of like kept the idea of text and visuals in my mind. So it still had a very comic book feel in a weird way. So yeah, and I got into manga for a little bit. There are some ones that I still read, but I remember in college I was really big into Blade of the Immortal.
Nice.
And I started getting into Berserk. So yeah, like the comic thing kind of stuck around, but at some point, I was more interested in doing more independent work,
Nice.
Where did
sorry, I was gonna say, where did the like was Lovecraft circling this when were you getting to that in college, or is that something you had from
Lovecraft was late college, I
really?
remember. Because I was reading Lord of the Rings in high school. And then I didn't quite finish it and finished it when I was in my first year in college, which was right before the films came out. So I kind of like got it in right before the zeitgeist like took over and it just became this huge thing, which was nice because I already had my version in my head, but it was still so fresh that I was like super pumped when these movies came out.
It's funny because I'd read them when I was younger because I had like it's funny how like you talk about your professor, the sort of guy you would think. When I was a kid,
Right.
my mom goes to church. I'm not really a religious person at all, but as a kid, I went with mom.
Yeah.
And in her church, the priest was really into like sci-fi novels and fantasy stuff, and he had passed off The Hobbit to me, and that of course led to everything else. So,
Right.
but I remember I was really obsessed with the Ralph Bakshi movie because that's all you had, right?
Right.
So I was,
yeah,
and that's kind of what was in my head.
Yeah, that's how I knew it too, but I had watched those like so long before, like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, like those cartoons I did watch. It's a weird thing because I still, when I was reading as a kid, it was still a lot of horror stuff. Like even when I was younger, it was like Goosebumps. I was always reading a lot of horror stuff, but I don't remember, even though I loved fantasy films, I don't remember reading a lot of it. But like as far as film went, it was like Legends, Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, Neverending Story, the Bakshi, like Lord of the Rings stuff. Like it's just, it was so like I was still like familiar with the story, but not to that degree. I was also a big Magic the Gathering player.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah. I wasn't into D&D. It wasn't because of the Satanic Panic stuff.
A little before our time, anyway.
Well, yeah, it was before our time, but I had man, I don't want to get all into the weeds with it.
That's what this is about.
I had an uncle that was very much into it, but he was this is my cat.
It's mine often. If it wasn't for the fact they're because they're doing work in our kitchen, we had them sequestered. If it wasn't for the fact that they were there, you would definitely see at least one of the four I have somewhere. Oh, that's a pretty cat.
Right. Yeah, she's beautiful. She's got colors of the rainbow in there.
Yeah. What's her name?
Cirilla. Like similar to the character from The Witcher.
Oh yes, yeah.
But spelled with a Y. The first I is Y. Yeah. Yeah, but that uncle, he was really into D&D, but he was also allegedly engaged in a lot of criminal and questionable behavior. So my mom just associated the two.
Oh, really?
Like, okay. You're not, well, because he would him and his friends would like dig holes out in the woods. My mom had, God, it's like it's such a deep, deep dive into things. My mom went out there one time and she just felt like the whole thing was creepy. She was like, "No, I don't know what he's doing back here." But so that just was always in the back of her head. He got me into Magic the Gathering, so that seemed to be okay. But look, D&D was like a bridge too far for her.
Yeah.
She was afraid it would just cross over into real life kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
like that Mazes and Monsters movie that Tom Hanks was in when he was a kid.
Yeah, which is thanks to Tubi, I got to see that one.
It's a ridiculous movie. It's kind of like Reefer Madness in that it's like such a sensationalist, like, look what'll happen if you smoke one joint, you'll murder your friend. Like, it's one of those things.
Fair. Although I do have to give the movie a partial credit in one regard, which is that obviously the Tom Hanks character had some sort of schizophrenia or something. So there's at least a reasonable, if they explored it in that sense a little bit more, it could have been a really good movie.
Exactly. But I guess it's just because like obviously the fans, the people that are involved in it, had kind of seemingly demonized their the thing they love. So. And the nerd community, it's very maligned.
Yeah, I know what they were going for, but I guess like the writer in me, sometimes I watch stuff like that and I'm just like, if they just change this and this and that, it actually could be like a good movie and and other 100%. Things. There's a small it's this little idea I have sometimes. I have these aspirations to take like really campy, weird films, since we're talking about that, and actually just tweak a little bit to turn them into legitimately good films. Like I feel like Manos, The Hands of Fate, there's enough in there that if it had been done differently, it probably could be a really good movie. Like
that's interesting. Like trying to a friend of mine always said that like they should stop remaking good movies and start remaking bad movies. Remake ones that have cool ideas but bad execution.
Right.
If you could save Troll 2, I'd be impressed. If you can bring me a Troll 2 that
works,
that works, I'll be very excited.
Even that one, I mean, you might have to change the goblin thing, not make them vegetarians, have another kind of villain in it. But yeah, you probably.
But even that's kind of interesting. Like you could maybe make fun of this new age wave of if you made it a period piece in the 80s, it became like that movie The Stuff, where it became like very cool, like everyone's trying to eat healthy, and it's all about like showing off how healthy you are by how much vegetables you eat. Then you could if you could somehow circle those two into something interesting, I think you could have something there.
Probably, yeah.
But it's such a the documentary about the making of that movie actually is well worth watching. The Best Worst Movie.
Oh yeah, I saw it years ago. Yeah,
me too.
It's good. Yeah.
Okay. So, getting into finding the Gothic and the sort of independent comics.
Right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's okay.
Lovecraft. So I was again, I was reading Lord of the Rings. I was doing a lot of reading up on mythology and stuff like that. Medieval texts, like translated works after I read Lord of the Rings, a lot of stuff while I was in college. But I noticed, I don't know, they're just perusing through different things, because sometimes I'd also be reading just some fantasy and horror stuff. The two names that kept coming up were Robert E. Howard and H.P. Lovecraft, while I was reading other things. So Robert E. Howard, I read, I think only in like my second or third year in college, and I fell in love with him. Lovecraft was right toward the tail end of college. And actually, at first, I didn't like his work. When I was reading it, even though I like very difficult and verbose prose, his stuff was so extreme. Never mind some of the racist undertones and content.
Lots of that.
I remember I read Rats in the Walls that was the first story I read, and I think it's the second or third page you get the name of the cat, and I was like, oh, okay.
This is where we are.
Yeah. So, but I remember I read a collection of his best works, and trying to get a few things out of the way so she doesn't scratch.
No worries.
But yeah, I read a collection of his best works, and I was just like, yeah, I liked it enough to keep going through it, but I wasn't sure I liked his writing until I finished the book, and then I just kept like thinking about the stories, almost like one of the characters out of his books. It was just kind of like it just kept working on my subconscious.
Hmm.
And then I just kept buying more Lovecraft stuff. And I mean, he became one of my favorite horror writers. But yeah, my first introduction to him, I was just like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm that big into it. And then
Oh, I get that.
yeah.
What do you like? I guess just as a side note, what do you think the appeal of him is? Like, what do you think his particular brand of? Do you think it's the? I kind of think it delves into the existential part of what it is about this. We're all kind of like I once heard existential horror. I think it was in relation to Rick and Morty, actually, defined as saying that it's sort of a direct juxtaposition to how much we as people want to find meaning in life and how much the universe doesn't care about that. So like,
Yeah.
and I feel like Lovecraft fits in that pocket so well. Like we all strive for meaning, but Lovecraft kind of explains that you'll never understand it, that the meaning is so far beyond your comprehension that even a glimpse of it will drive you insane. Like,
Right.
so like, and the idea that, that there's the horrors that hide in the darkness beyond our periphery, all this sort of stuff. I don't know. I feel like it kind of taps into our inherent paranoia and our inherent existential dread.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, there's the quote by Lovecraft that, the I think it's the deepest and oldest fear is the fear of the unknown,
Mm.
And I think he really tapped into a lot of that too. I think the appeal is, as you say, part of it is just the unfathomable, unexplainable
Mm.
nature of like the universe and life and stuff like that. But I also just think I think his work holds up too, just because um, it's not, well, like I said, it does kind of work on your subconscious
Mm.
because there's not, everything isn't like um, given away completely. You don't always see the monsters. You don't always quite know everything that's happening. And I think the best works do leave a little bit up, to
Mm.
audience interpretation, not in like a super artsy way, but I think if you give everything away, um,
I
I
agree,
used to very
100%.
like Tolkien was very much like that. I think that to a certain extent was the appeal of Star Wars before it expanded so much,
Mm.
was
Yeah.
just the ability for fans to debate things
Yep.
because you didn't have all the answers. You had enough that you had a story and everything to enjoy, but there was always something left unsaid that, kind of let you, as the audience member, you kind of have a shared experience then
Mm.
because there's a little bit of like filling in the blanks.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
actually was thinking about that. I was talking to someone about Ari Aster because we just watched Eddington as a movie, and I was saying like even like Hereditary, Midsummer, all those movies, they don't. There's things in them that you can discover. He doesn't knock you over the head with it. It's there. As
Right,
long as you're paying attention, you'll get it. But
right,
then maybe that's why certain people don't enjoy his films as much because like to me it's like there's so much that's on the page, but not that's there. But you really
right,
need to be engaged, and
right.
that's I can see that. Yeah, that's a good reason. Um,
Yeah.
cool. Well, when did you start getting into doing your own work, published?
It was when I was in, I mean, since the beginning of my career, I've mostly been doing it, which was about 2007, 2008. But I would say, I don't know, I think I was probably in like fourth or fifth grade when I created my first comic book character.
Hmm.
And back then, because again, that was pre Battle Chasers and Crimson, but post Spawn. I remember at that time having this very specific um, desire to not draw anyone else's characters, even on my own time. I was just going to work on my own stuff and only draw my own characters.
Nice.
Yes. And that went on for a while. You know, but yeah, I would say from a pretty young age, I suddenly got really into like wanting to tell my own stories, which was a weird thing because again, it did start with comics.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I kind of wrote and would create stories and stuff like that, and obviously I was figured out somehow how to write scripts when I was in like fifth grade, and I was doing my own comics for myself. But the art was more the focus.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I got into high school that I think I was like, well, you got to start taking the writing seriously as a craft too. You know, if you're going to be doing your own stuff. Not that I wasn't, but I don't think I really like concentrated on it the same way I did my art. But yeah, it was like anything else, kind of an evolution. It started with like, you know, my comic character, and then I started building other ideas, and started when I went through the phase of maybe wanting to create a video game. At least I was like doing character designs and backstories and stuff like that. So it just, at some point I was always telling stories for my own characters. I wasn't necessarily interested in doing fan fiction, so I was just doing my own thing all the time.
When did you when did you get something published? Like when was the first sort of
the first thing I got published outside of like, my local like high school like papers or whatever, or was for an organization I joined in late 2007 called the Comic Book Artists Guild. They're not around anymore, but they were mostly East Coast based in the US, and they kind of moved over to the West Coast as well. They were putting out an anthology every year, just different works, but they had a mascot character, and the script was already written, but whoever the artist was just kind of went MIA. And I was at my first meeting, and I had been mailing stuff out for years and years, trying to get, 2 years. I'm saying years and years. It was about 2 years trying to get stuff, because I graduated in 2005, trying to either get my own stuff published or find some freelance work. And I went to my first meeting. They mentioned that the artist dropped out. I mostly do fantasy and horror. I don't really do superheroes or sci-fi, and that's exactly what it was. But I just raised my hand, and I'm like, I'll do it if you need an artist.
Yeah. Work.
And they were just kind of like, it could have gone either way, but they were kind of impressed with my enthusiasm and just willingness to just jump in.
Nice.
They were like, yeah, we'll have you do it, So, and that was the first thing. It was just like an 8-pager, black and white. Somebody else inked it. And then I did a few other things with them, but also it was such a nice story, but it didn't quite take off the way I thought it was going to. That one job allowed me to go to New York Comic Con in 2008 as a professional. And I was able to meet one guy from Monarch Comics who passed me off to another friend of his who did a lot of Lovecraft stuff. So I was able to get some Lovecraft stuff published in his magazine that I wrote and drew. And then I also wound up meeting Kevin Eastman when he was the head of Heavy Metal Magazine. I was able to get a piece in Heavy Metal. So that's kind of where it all started. And then just kind of went from there between working for other people and doing my own stuff. It was that was kind of the beginning of it,
Very cool. Well, I wanted to ask you about your connections. It's funny. I literally, I mentioned earlier when we were scheduling to do this talk that I had a pipe leak in my basement. It leaked in the floor of my kitchen, so they had to take out the floor, and that's part of what the construction they're doing in the house is. It's mostly completely been fixed now, but renovations. So I was going, because of that, I kind of organized my board games in the basement. I had extra shelves, so I was organizing my basement better in the unfinished part. I was going through a bunch of my old DVDs, and I came across that Night of the Living Dead reanimated one. And it's so funny that this worked out, because I literally was holding it in my hand like 2 days ago going, I got to watch this soon. And then I saw it, I was like, and then I saw that you'd worked on it. I was like, oh, that's really cool. How did that come about?
How did that come about? I don't where I know that I was doing some work and the coordinator of the project, Mike Schneider, reached out to me because I was doing some horror work,
Mm-hmm.
and he was just looking for as many creatives as he could get, and he seemed to like the artwork I was doing. And he pitched me on the idea, which I thought was a little bit strange at the time. It's like, yeah, we're going to take the voice and soundtrack of Night of the Living Dead, and we're just going to have people do animation, puppetry, claymation, still images, because I told him, like, I had a computer animation background. That's what I went to college for, again, because the video game thing, although I didn't like animating. But I told him, I'm just an illustrator and a writer. I'm not going to, like, I don't do any animation, so this is a couple years after, but he was okay with it. Yeah, he said there were no guarantees about what we'd get in the film. He asked me to just, like, everybody was picking a section of the film they wanted to do, and just let him know out of, like, what was left,
Hmm.
what I wanted to do, because I don't. He had to have gotten a few hundred artists.
Yeah,
It's not like a small number. So I'm just like one guy in there. But yeah, I wound up picking a scene toward the end of the film where um, Johnny Barber's brother comes back as a zombie. Spoilers, sorry everyone. Yeah,
If you haven't seen that yet, you're
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. So just that little clip toward the end, and yeah, I think I did 12 illustrations, and maybe like eight of them wound up in the final cut. Um, but I know Mike Schneider was cutting it up a lot.
Mm.
It was like I remember going to a screening in New Jersey that he had for this group, and then I was on, like, the zombie panel after it.
Mm.
And I remember him saying then that it wasn't necessarily the final cut of the film that eventually wound up on the DVDs, and pretty much, like, I mean, he got it where it was streaming in places before streaming was, like, a really big thing. You could get it through Amazon and stuff like that. Um, and I do know at one point him saying, and I'm not quoting it verbatim, but I'm pretty sure he told us all at one point that George Romero, before he passed away, was aware of the reanimated thing, and he liked it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but there was no. He was never specifying whether or not it was, like, canonly part of the
Oh
part of
yeah,
the
yeah.
universe.
It's interesting to see what he, like I watched when Shutter put out the amusement park, that like long forgotten sort of PSA he did about being nicer to older people,
Right.
which is like I love that his sort of horror, it's so deep in his DNA, is something that he still couldn't help himself but make something that was pretty horrific and and
Right.
actually I think that thing was insanely well done. Like
Yeah.
as far as being a short film, it's excellent. But yeah, no, I kind of wonder what his connection. I talked to John Russo in the show, as the co-writer of the script for Night of the Living Dead, and he seemed a little bitter, just that
Yeah.
Romero seemed to get all of the fanfare. But he was this really open guy, told a lot of great stories about sort of making it. And I have
Yeah.
when before he was on the show, he was at an event in Halifax, just signing books and stuff. And me and my friend went up to the table, and my friend started talking unsolicited about that 1999 version they did where they added more clips. And then he
Yeah.
started talking about how horrible it was. There's like a lot, like it goes on for about 5 minutes, and then Russo's like, "Yeah, no, I did that."
Yeah.
And it was like,
Oh,
"Oh man, I never let my friend live it down." You went up to
oh,
the guy
that's
that
too
created for
funny.
like 5 minutes and talked about how bad it was. But
Yeah.
it got them he said it got them the money they needed to restore the original, which was what the important thing was. And I was like, all right, well, that makes
Oh,
sense.
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it
um,
is funny. A friend of mine met him recently because we were at a convention in Altoona, Pennsylvania, Sci-Fi Valley Con.
Mm-hmm.
He was there this past June. I never get a chance to meet anybody because I'm always like working my table, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But yeah, I forgot the question he asked him. We wanted to ask him something, but he said he was pretty approachable though.
He
But
was,
yeah,
yeah,
no,
he was nice.
yeah.
He was a fun talk for sure.
Cool.
Well, you have your own kind of books you're working, like, you mentioned you have books you've done for other places, but as well as your own.
Yeah.
And you got into the children's book side of thing too, which was children's books something you were kind of passionate about, or just something you fell into, or because
Um,
I do really like the children's books that sort of are like you mentioned Goosebumps and all that stuff. So to me,
right.
those are my intro to horror as a kid. So I love that there are people out there doing that as well again, and keeping that train going. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I just have the one out so far. I keep meaning to spend some time doing more of them. I guess
mhm.
it's just like doing children's books isn't my main area of interest.
Hmm.
It's more of like um, novels and comics. But yeah, I do want to do like a whole line of spooky children's books. I
Oh,
mean,
that's awesome.
the one I have right now is Ghosts Are People too, which is it's kind of bizarre and fun, but I haven't had negative feedback on it yet.
Hmm.
I mean, anybody that's purchased it and who's come back to me and they're like, yeah, my friends love it. A few people were like, um, my kids love it, but now they've got all these questions about ghosts. So thanks a lot. Kind of like, yeah,
That's good. You should have questions
yeah,
about it.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, it's a unique kind of book. I did it. It started as a poem I wrote. It was just kind of like this weird poem I did when I was substitute teaching years ago, and I was just on a lunch break, and I was like, well, if I can make this a little longer, maybe I could make something out of it. So I didn't like try to stretch it, but I did try to see if I could flesh out the poem a little bit more. And yeah, it's this weird thing where like it kind of starts out as like ghosts being very like frightening, but then it's like, well, they were all once alive, and if they had a choice, they'd kind of be doing everything you're doing anyway.
Mhm.
So it just gets really, really strange, but it kind of in a weird way, it almost humanizes them. And then it kind of teaches like this weird acceptance thing at the same time without it being like this overt sort of thing. It's like just this weird little entity that's a little different than you. But
Well, people like death is such like sex and death are like the two things that everyone, so everyone has some connection to, but no one really wants to talk about.
right,
Death's the ultimate one.
right,
Like the idea that like we all are going to be have been touched by it probably at this point in our lives, are going to be
sure,
touched by it more the older we get, and eventually are going
right.
to be really touched by it when we're dead. So it's just so crazy that and I don't know if it's just a Western thing because I feel like maybe it is, but like the idea that we're just so uh, you know, repressed about something that's such an
Right.
important part of life. We can't even make wills or talk about or tell people what we want to do with our shit when we die. Like it's just,
It's funny. Yeah, that's come up a few. I mean, it comes up a lot, especially on the sex topic with the
Mhm.
Western in the Western world. But yeah, with death too, I do remember um reading it a long time ago in some article. An editor was talking about it or something where, um it's hard to find, but there is a real need for children's books that deal with things like death
Mhm.
or, you know, a lost animal, just like some of the unfortunate things.
Mhm.
Obviously, you're not going to write a sex book for kids, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
but some of the other things about life that, are going to like creep up,
Mhm.
maybe unexpectedly in their life. And, it's good to have a way to deal with it or tackle
At
it.
least a base knowledge so that it's not a complete surprise when, the puppy dies or something, like it's terrible stuff, but at least if you're prepared somewhat, or at least aware that it can happen or will happen,
Right.
then, you won't be. I read this thing a while ago. It's like a Buddhist belief, which I kind of liked. That it's sort of like if you have a mug, it's like your favorite mug, and you love it, you're that mug. Eventually, that mug will break, and you'll be sad because your favorite mug broke. But like the Buddhist or this I don't know if it's Buddhism, but something like that. It's like you're always supposed to say to yourself that the cup is always broken. So like and always see it as being broken. So when it's finally broken, you're like, of course it's broken. It was always going to be broken, and now it's broken. So often I'll repeat to myself, the cup was always broken. When it comes to some kind of thing where you're trying to deal with something like that. It somehow makes it easier for me. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And that's the kind of thing. It's like there could be children's books like that where it just kind of like deals with it in a way that's on their level.
I don't want to say sanitize, it makes it sound bad, but like, you're right. Like kind of homogenized into something that they can accept or absorb.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah,
well, that
was kind of the deal with this book. Not that it deals with death so specifically. It kind of glosses over it in a weird, playful way, but it does kind of like doesn't kind of like avoid all the weird, right? Not weird, but like just spooky things about like ghosts in general, and it doesn't ignore the fact that they were once alive, so to speak, so it was, it doesn't say like, oh well, they just exist in this other world. No, they were once people that were alive that
I kind of like the way like that I feel like Del Toro has kind of a connective tissue with his movies that deal with ghosts somewhat about stuff like that because they I like the way he's sort of like they're almost stuck in a moment, like they're sort of stuck in some kind of thing that's connected to their death they got to work their way out of, or at least try to help others through their way out of, like Crimson Peak and sort of The Devil's Backbone kind of delve into that.
Right, which is kind of the way I think of as ghosts as being. Actually, there's a great movie on Netflix called what is it? I'm the pretty little thing that lives in the house or something like that.
Yeah, was that wasn't Osgood Perkins, was it?
It might have been. It was a really good film.
I've heard that. Actually, I haven't seen that yet. But it's been on my list.
I was kind of surprised. It was one of the earlier Netflix originals that I watched. I remember that in like 1922 being another one.
Yeah, it is Oscar Perkins. That is right. So it's been on my list for that reason. Yeah, it's 2016.
Yeah,
I was floored with how much I loved Longlegs, but how much I loved the monkey.
I still have to see the monkey.
Oh, dude, it's one of my top movies of this year by far.
Oh, it looks good. It looks,
It's deeply funny. It's very funny.
Well, but like it looked like it had an over the top.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
But it's also about death, like talking about death and having to accept it. The whole thing is about the random, the insane, the chaotic, ways that we die. It's unexpected. You never know what's going to happen. And then we all just have to kind of live with it. And it's kind of funny in a way because it's just so random. Obviously, some of the deaths in that are like pretty absurd. But it's almost like Final Destination, and it's in fact, when I saw the new Final Destination movie, I was like, like the monkey already kind of set up. I mean, obviously those movies came first. I think the monkey would have came out first as a short story, but the idea behind that one felt like it captured the vibe of how unpredictable death is way more than those movies do, I guess. I really dug it. It's just well acted too, and it was very well done.
I definitely I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't want to keep you all day, but I want to get to your the other comic you're working on as well. I'm going to ask you to pronounce it so I don't mess it up.
It's funny. You could try. Sometimes people get it right, and I'm always curious. Yeah, Chadhiyana.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah, no, I've had people botch it up really bad. So yeah, no, you're fine. You're right on there. Yeah, it's So speaking of influences and stuff like that, it's sort of in a fictional history of our world. So I mean, she's a wandering swordswoman, the title character. Mm-hmm. It's dark fantasy, very Conan-esque or Red Sonja-esque.
There's the Howard influence.
Yeah, the Howard influence. Mm-hmm. But Chadhiyana, the name itself, again, because it's not it's inspired by India and Indian culture, but it's not really. So even her name, it's just like a made up name.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a Tolkien element, not as heavily, but like it's invented languages and stuff within the worlds that, kind of tie into the cultures and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say that's a focus. It's just a feature of the of it. And yeah, it's more of a character study type of thing. Like I just wanted to do a story that focused on a character rather than um, an event or a setting or something like that. So it follows her adventures throughout her life, different periods, kind of shows her evolution as a person. Because really, at the heart of it, she is running from her past and trying to figure out who she is in the world. So a lot of the adventures are her kind of like dealing with or trying not to deal with a lot of the stuff that she had gone through.
Cool.
And I guess trying to process that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Well, that's yeah, it looks very interesting to me. I was trying to put my finger on what it reminded me of, as far as like the sort of aesthetic of it. But I mean, your style generally is kind of unique. It reminds me a little of, and I can't think of his name right now, the guy that does Lock and Key or did Lock and Key.
Oh yeah, so I got so many comparisons.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, everyone has a different point of reference where they're
For
like,
sure.
yeah, Lock and Key. I've gotten the video game Don't Starve, like the
Oh
artwork
yeah,
for
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I've gotten Mignola, although I was more heavily Mignola before. So then, of course, there's usually also the game. What Darkest Dungeon will get brought up.
I'm sure Ed Gorey comes up sometimes too.
Everett Gorey comes
Yeah.
up. He's been coming up more recently, which is weird because I have two friends that live on Cape Cod, not far from the Edward Gorey house. And we all have been there a few times. And I feel like ever since I made that trip years ago,
he's
Gorey's
got
come
in
up
you.
more.
Yeah. He's
It's like,
affected you. His spirit is in there.
yeah.
That's
So
hilarious.
yeah, he comes up. And for some reason, David Stewart sometimes,
Oh,
the guy
really?
that,
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
yeah.
Um,
Although I wouldn't say that he was an influence, but some people, every once in a while, somebody mentions a reference. They're like, I don't want to offend you. It's like, it's not going to offend me. I really
oh
don't.
yeah, well
It's,
everything.
yeah, it's just, yeah.
Well, there's a card game I play board games. There's a card game called Gloom that I've played before that has a very similar kind of aesthetic. It's very Ed Gorey-esque art, and it
Oh,
reminds me a bit
cool.
of it as well. So it's sort of like you have
Yeah.
to tell kind of a macabre story. So like each card has different elements, and you got to put them together in a line to tell like a story.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting. It's if you're kind of into gothic stuff, it's sort of up your alley.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
cool. So what is I guess what's next for you? Like what do you got in the go?
Well, I'm working on more Chadhiyana issues, which I say in almost every interview because it's been a while since I put out a new one. But yeah, and then some more novels as well because I do have two novels out too.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I want to get some more of those done. Mostly those have been in the horror genre, so probably a few more of those. I'd like to get some dark fantasy pieces out too.
Nice.
More Chadhiyana issues, and actually Chadhiyana's been in another publication for about a year and a half now. I've been doing like a comic strip for a publisher called Echidna Comic. So it's like a newspaper format. I mean, I can kind of show you on screen, but obviously your listeners aren't going to see it. It's like it's a whole newspaper.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just strips and strips and strips. So
that is so cool.
I was writing something with a friend of mine, but then yeah, we've been what you want to call it? She's been running.
Oh wow, that's gorgeous.
Yeah. She's been running in the or in the newspaper for like 10 issues so far, and now they're starting a third season, so I got another story that's going into it.
Beautiful.
They do like 7 issues every season, so I'm trying to keep the stories to 7 parts, So yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
technically have 2 Chadhiyanas running, so I'm continuing to do that.
Oh, very good.
Plus the other stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
Awesome.
It feels like every time somebody asks me, I got uh, different responses because I'm always coming up with new ideas, and I don't mean that to sound like pompous or egotistical,
No,
but every
but
once in a while something
like
does
any
come up.
creative type, you generally have 1,000 things in your head at once, and getting one of them finished is like the hardest thing. So the fact you
Yeah,
do is
but
you're light years ahead of most creative types.
yeah, but I Chadian has always been a focus, even when I haven't been putting out issues, and of
Mm.
course, writing more novels is always been a focus too. So, yeah, you can always count on more of those coming for sure.
Awesome.
When I get a
Well,
chance, I have an idea for another children's book. Might be related to Nosferatu, so we'll see.
awesome. That's sweet. That'd be
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the horror books. What are the titles? So, anybody listening, go check them
Um,
out.
Robert Phillips is the first one.
Hmm.
It's a name. It actually is linked to Lovecraft's work. It's like 10, 20 years after the events of some of his stories and follows two friends. One's the title character, and it's told from the first person perspective of his friend. Again, I said I used to read a lot of translated
Hmm.
texts and stuff like that, and I'm really into languages and stuff. So the whole concept was the title character, Robert, believes there's translation errors in the Necronomicon
Hmm.
and like the English version of it. So he wants to go back and retranslate it, and then that just kind of becomes this spiraling black hole for him to go insane as his friend is kind of watching it happen.
Hmm.
Um, and then the other one is the Kirkland horror, which I'm that one I'm really proud of. I mean, Robert Phillips came out very good. A lot of people like that better of the two. And then there's other people like me that like the Kirkland horror, which is it's about a plague that overtakes a city. Also kind of Lovecraftian. It's driving people crazy and causing certain uh, body deformities and stuff like that. And no one really knows what's causing the plague. So the novel follows 4 different characters, and the reader kind of puts together what's actually going on based on each of the characters' stories. So,
Well, that sounds excellent. All
yeah,
right. Well, I ask this as most horror whenever I talk to someone that's kind of involved in horror on the show because I am a nut for it as well. Before I let
yeah.
them go, I always say, what's one horror book and one horror movie that most people probably haven't heard of that you would suggest?
Uh, that most people haven't heard of.
Well, that
Oh my
might be more obscure, not quite as common as, a Stephen King book or something.
Well, I haven't read it in a really long, long, long time, but I do remember there being this weird YA novel when I was young called The Ripper. I haven't read it in a while, so I can't speak to like how good the writing in it is anymore. But
Hmm.
we'll throw it out there because I'm
Stephen
trying
Hunt.
to think what I have read that other people wouldn't have heard of. Uh, the Ripper novel. Uh, can I find this by
Hmm.
D.E. Atkins? I don't even know if it was a Scholastic book. It was
The
really,
Ripper was
really
by who, sorry? D.A. Afkin?
D.E. Atkins.
All right.
Or, he is more obscure nowadays, but if you track down anything by Carl Jacobi, um, you know, he was more popular back in the Weird Tales days, but he's kind of become obscure. But I love his writing.
I do remember this Ripper book. That's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, right
I don't
on.
remember.
Cool.
There we go. And films, man, it's just not as uncommon, but I don't think a lot of people still have seen it. I would go out and watch Let the Right One In, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
the the original
Hmm.
Danish, right?
Yep.
Version of
Alquist, I think, wrote the book, if I recall correctly. I think.
yeah, which I haven't read the book. I do want to read it.
I have it. I just haven't got to it yet. It's on the
Yeah,
pile.
Yeah, but I watched the original before I saw the remake, and I was just blown away. I
Oh,
think
the
it's a
original is vastly
fantastic.
superior. They're both
Yeah,
good, but the original is vastly superior, in my opinion.
yeah. It's one of the few times I've seen a American remake where it's like, you know what, they didn't do a bad job,
No,
but it's
yeah,
so much better when you watch the
yeah.
original.
No, there's a quiet horde of that movie that's so well done, and the Swedish version has so much more to it. I think the American version kind of puts a little more in your face, like, the guy that's with her originally,
Yeah, yeah.
like
Well,
that you think that he was what this kid is before and
right.
what this kid might be in the future, and you're like, it adds a whole other level to that.
It's funny you mentioned that though, because to me, that was one of the theories I had, because we're
Mm,
talking about earlier, like not giving everything away in the
yeah,
story.
yes,
The original gives you just enough to work with that you can
exactly.
kind of fill in
Yeah.
holes. And that was one of the things I was like, and it what I really liked about it is it kind of in a very different way shows how a vampire might be able to function in a modern society
Oh
and
yeah.
get away with it,
Yeah. Well,
in a very
especially,
real,
yeah.
yeah,
And
a
even
very
like
real way.
the sort of subtle hint that she wasn't originally she, and all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff. It's
right.
it's it's all very interesting and super cool. In
Yeah.
fact, if you're like, I'll throw one at you if you haven't seen it yet, but you probably did. The Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Have you watched that?
Oh my God. Okay, so
Okay.
this is was in my head, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
So,
I just
and
watched it
it's like
recently. It's very interesting.
it's been on my Netflix queue for probably years and years and years, and I just have not sat down and watched it. And it comes up every now and then, so thank you for mentioning it because
Yeah, well,
I have to
I,
sit down
I
and
wouldn't call it a perfect movie, but it's pretty
right.
great. It's
Yeah.
as far as like the black and white cinematography and telling a very interesting story and a quiet one that doesn't. There's not a lot of talking in it. Doesn't give you like a ton of stuff, but there's a lot to read in it, and it certainly reminds me of Let the Right One In, um,
Yeah.
which
Nice.
which is cool. Well,
Yeah.
I'll let you get back to your life, man. Thank you, Jeff. It was really a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks. Good talking
Awesome.
to you too.
All
Yeah.
right, have yourself a great day.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.
There you have it, my conversation with J.M. DeSantis, a great chat with a great guy doing some great work. You should check out his books. They're really, really unique. His art style is very cool. His various pictures of Nosferatu are awesome. He's got some merch on his website as well, t-shirts and stuff. And yeah, super cool projects. And, these indie guys are out there making cool stuff. In fact, today, I just got a book from James Aquilone, who we've had in the show before, who is an editor, writer, who was working on these collection books, and he did one called The Dead Detective Society, which is a series of short stories based around kind of noirish, horror adjacent detective stories. And I've read the first one; it was great. So I'm excited to read some more. And check in on your favorite indie creators. Get out there, find some stuff that's not in the mainstream, because these guys are out in the trenches, really doing the work and doing some really, really cool stuff. So be sure to check those out when you come across them. Many, many of the people I have in the show are folks that are out there beating the drum and doing their own thing. And the only way to do that is for them to be able to continue to do that is for you to go out there and pick up their work. So, all right, I did mention I have a few episodes in the can. The next one, of course, is next week. On Monday, you can check out my interview with Nick Casbro, who is a creator of Vitellarium, which is a kind of an expansive fictional universe, books, comics, all kinds of stuff that he's working on. We'll get into that in the conversation. So tune into that next Monday. In the meantime, enjoy your summer, stay safe, have fun, be careful in the woods. If you're in my neck of the woods, they have wildfire warnings everywhere, and you're not allowed to go onto campsites and other. Well, you can go to campsites, can't go on hiking trails or trails like that. Anywhere in the woods that is unmonitored, you can't go. So stay safe, pray for rain, and be careful. The Graphic Histories Podcast is a proud partner of the United Federation of Podcasts.